Most people slept on this, but the Switch 2's handheld boost update is quietly making some older games look and feel brand new. And there are a handful of titles that genuinely deserve a second look because of it. These are the games worth revisiting right now. Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes on Switch 2 is the perfect excuse to dive back into Fodlan, and the handheld boost update makes it genuinely the best way to experience it. The combat blends large-scale hack-and-slash chaos with real tactical decision-making, directing squad members across the battlefield, triggering guard breaks that launch into devastating critical rushes, and chaining class-specific combos that evolve the further you push each character. Switching between a Wyvern Rider, a Mage, and an Archer mid-mission keeps the momentum constantly refreshed. 3 completely separate campaigns with branching paths mean the story shifts dramatically depending on which house you commit to, and the base camp relationship building between battles feeds directly into combat performance. On Switch 2, sharper visuals and rock-solid performance make the on-screen chaos easier to read and way more satisfying to control. Over 100 hours of content waiting, and it plays better now than it ever has. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 on Switch 2 with the handheld boost update transforms what was once a blurry, frame-dropping experience into something running at a locked frame rate with noticeably crisper textures. And on that Switch 2 screen, it genuinely feels like a refreshed release worth returning to. The combat represents the pinnacle of everything Monolith Soft has refined across the series, weaving 3 class roles across 6 characters where the balance between attackers, defenders, and healers decides whether brutal encounters get dismantled efficiently or collapse entirely. Then Ouroboros arrives, party members physically fusing into towering supernatural beings mid-fight, capable of turning guaranteed defeats into victories within seconds, feeding into chain attack sequences that compound into staggering damage numbers when timed correctly. Dozens of jobs unlocked through Hero Quest storylines keep the build possibilities growing throughout a campaign pushing well beyond 60 hours. The world of Ionios was already an overwhelming achievement in scale, but running this sharply in handheld mode makes exploring it feel like an entirely new experience. A landmark Switch title now finally presented the way it always deserved to be. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 on Switch 2 with the handheld boost update transforms what was once a blurry, frame-dropping experience into something running at a locked frame rate with noticeably crisper textures. And on that Switch 2 screen, it genuinely feels like a refreshed release worth returning to. The combat represents the pinnacle of everything Monolith Soft has refined across the series, weaving 3 class roles across 6 characters where the balance between attackers, defenders, and healers decides whether brutal encounters get dismantled efficiently or collapse entirely. Then Ouroboros arrives, party members physically fusing into towering supernatural beings mid-fight, capable of turning guaranteed defeats into victories within seconds, feeding into chain attack sequences that compound into staggering damage numbers when timed correctly. Dozens of jobs unlocked through Hero Quest storylines keep the build possibilities growing throughout a campaign pushing well beyond 60 hours. The world of Ionios was already an overwhelming achievement in scale, but running this sharply in handheld mode makes exploring it feel like an entirely new experience. A landmark Switch title now finally presented the way it always deserved to be. Pokemon finally broke its own formula entirely, and the result was one of the most refreshing entries the series has ever produced. Pokemon Arceus threw out gyms throughout the Elite Four and dropped you into the ancient Sinnoh region where wild Pokemon roam freely and actually pose a genuine threat. Catching, crafting, and battling all happen seamlessly in the field without constant menu interruptions, and the momentum that creates never really lets up. Alpha Pokemon tower over regular encounters. Frenzied legendaries serve as the climactic battles replacing traditional gym structures, and side quests reward you with actual shiny Pokemon and access to legendaries rather than generic items. Generation 4 fans will lose their minds connecting familiar locations to their ancient counterparts. The post-game alone stretches the experience significantly beyond the credits. On Switch 2 with the handheld boost upgrade, the vibrant world of Hisui gets the visual treatment it always deserved. Sharper, more defined, and genuinely beautiful on that upgraded display. A game that already felt ahead of its time now looks the part completely. Red Dead Redemption on Switch 2 is a completely free upgrade for anyone who already owns the Switch version, and the difference is staggering. Targeting 60 frames per second instead of 30, richer lighting, sharper detail across the entire frontier, extended draw distances, and dramatically reduced load times. This is the version that makes the 1911 American wilderness feel genuinely alive in your hands. John Marston's story remains one of Rockstar's finest narrative achievements, built around this deeply personal tale of a man trying to earn back his family while dismantling everything he once stood for. Deadeye slows time mid-gunfight, letting you tag multiple targets before unleashing everything simultaneously, and combined with mouse control support when docked, the combat feels remarkably modern for a 15-year-old title. The open world holds up surprisingly well too, rewarding exploration with side missions, mini-games, and encounters that constantly pull you off the critical path. Whether this is a nostalgic return or a first visit entirely, on Switch 2, Red Dead Redemption has never been more worth your time. Monster Hunter Stories 2 on Switch 2 with the handheld boost upgrade is the perfect excuse to jump back into one of the most underappreciated JRPGs in the entire Switch library. The rock, paper, scissors combat foundation sounds deceptively simple until the layers start revealing themselves. Predict your opponent's attack pattern, match your response correctly, and suddenly you and your monster partner trigger a devastating combined strike that feels genuinely earned. Build the buddy meter high enough and you physically mount your companion mid-battle, unleashing an even more powerful sequence that keeps the spectacle firing constantly. The egg hunting system running alongside all of that remains as compulsive as ever, with every single creature in the 80+ roster boasting a design worth chasing down. On Switch 2, sharper visuals bring those iconic Monster Hunter creatures to life with a crispness the original hardware simply couldn't deliver. The world pops, the monsters look incredible, and the combat animations carry significantly more visual punch. Everything that made this worth playing the first time around hits harder with that upgrade applied. Still one of the finest turn-based combat systems the platform has produced. 120 to 150 hours. That's what Persona 5 Royal demands, and on Switch 2 with the handheld boost upgrade, every single one of those hours looks better than ever before. The stylized palaces, the slick menus, the Phantom Thief outfits, all of it carries a visual sharpness on that upgraded display that makes the already legendary art direction genuinely jaw-dropping. Ambushing enemies before they spot you triggers a preemptive strike, hitting elemental weaknesses chains into downed opponents, and landing every enemy simultaneously unleashes a team assault dripping with personality. Boss encounters then flip the puzzle entirely. Wrong elemental coverage means disaster, forcing genuine strategic preparation rather than just brute forcing through. Persona Fusion running underneath all of that creates this endlessly deep customization loop, where Joker's capabilities keep expanding in unexpected directions. The social side feeds combat progression too, with deepening character bonds unlocking new battle mechanics and pushing toward an expanded ending that reframes the entire journey. Secret boss fights, card games, mini-games, side stories, the content density here is extraordinary. The gold standard of modern JRPGs now running at its absolute best.
The perilous journey of a hunted hero.
Dragon Quest XI's on Switch 2 with the handheld boost upgrade finally addresses what held the Switch version back. Sharper character models, cleaner textures, and significantly improved rendering that brings it far closer to the original PS4 version's visual standard. And with that upgrade applied, this 80+ hour adventure looks the way it always deserved to. The turn-based combat underneath remains deeply satisfying. Each character carries multiple skill trees, pulling them toward completely different roles, so a dedicated healer can be rebuilt into a frontline damage dealer simply by swapping weapon types. The pep system layers on top of that, rewarding players who take hits by unlocking powerful abilities that sometimes require specific party combinations to trigger, turning even desperate situations into spectacular comeback moments. A sprawling true ending adds roughly 20 additional hours beyond the initial credits, recontextualizing the whole journey in ways that genuinely surprise. The orchestral soundtrack arrangement available exclusively in this version elevates every quiet town and climactic battle dramatically. For anyone who bounced off the original Switch release due to visual compromises, the handheld boost upgrade changes that conversation entirely. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity on Switch 2 with their handheld boost upgrade fixes the one thing that held this game back, the frame rate. Massive battlefields packed with hundreds of enemies now run dramatically smoother, and in handheld mode specifically, that improvement transforms what was occasionally a slideshow into the fluid, high-octane spectacle it was always meant to be. The combat rewards a deeper investment too. Weak attack chains building into cinematic finishes feel genuinely powerful, but what keeps things endlessly fresh is how distinct every character plays. Urbosa calling down lightning, Mipha teleporting through cascading waterfalls, unexpected unlockable fighters that genuinely catch you off guard. The roster variety means switching between characters mid-campaign constantly reinvents the experience. Breath of the Wild's cooking system, flurry rushes, and Sheikah Slate abilities all carry over, making this feel less like a spin-off and more like an expanded, higher intensity version of that world running at full throttle. A love letter to one of the greatest games ever made, finally performing on Switch 2 the way it deserved to from day one. Fire Emblem Engage on Switch 2 with the handheld boost upgrade is the version that makes those stunning battle animations and grid-based tactical maps look genuinely spectacular in your hands. The combat here is the headline. Each battle unfolds across beautifully designed maps where weapon triangle matchups, unit positioning, and permadeath risk combine into these deeply satisfying strategic puzzles that regularly push past the 40-minute mark. The Emblem Ring system layers something genuinely exciting on top of that foundation. Equipping rings containing legendary warriors grants characters completely new battle actions, and with 12 rings distributable across a roster of 30 units, the tactical combinations run remarkably deep. Character bonding through shared battles unlocks cutscenes that steadily develop relationships between units, making roster decisions feel personal rather than purely mechanical. Playing on hard difficulty is where the full strategic depth reveals itself, demanding genuine mastery of every system rather than casual progression. The game's wealth of customization options rewards players who engage with everything it offers, and on Switch 2, with performance locked and visuals significantly sharpened, diving into that depth has never looked or felt this good. If you slept on Immortals Phoenix Rising the first time around, the Switch 2 handheld boost upgrade gives you the perfect reason to finally jump in, and the visual difference is immediately noticeable. That vibrant Greek mythology world pops with significantly sharper detail, richer lighting, and smoother performance that makes gliding across the Golden Isle on Daedalus wings genuinely breathtaking on that upgraded display. The combat blends light and heavy attacks with parry timing into a satisfying flow that rewards aggression and precision equally, while an upgrade system built around armor trade-offs and special abilities keeps character progression constantly interesting. Dozens of vault puzzle chambers scattered throughout the world offer some genuinely clever environmental challenges, manipulating floating cubes, redirecting wind currents, chaining elemental interactions that break up the combat rhythm brilliantly. The open world itself is packed with statues, hidden caves, and mythology-themed set pieces rewarding exploration at every turn. An upgrade tree tied to potions, armor, and abilities means every side quest contributes meaningfully toward making Phoenix more powerful in ways that feel earned. Ambitious, visually gorgeous, and endlessly entertaining. On Switch 2, this one finally gets the presentation it deserved from the start. Next is Saints Row 4, Re-elected. Now's the perfect excuse to jump back in. This thing feels completely refreshed. The real magic here has always been the insane abilities. You're not just driving around causing chaos, you're sprinting faster than cars, leaping across entire city blocks, gliding through the air, and tossing enemies like ragdolls with mind powers. It turns the whole map into your playground, and that feeling hits even harder with the handheld boost upgrade. On Switch 2, everything looks sharper and runs way smoother. especially when you're flying across steel ports at full speed. What used to feel a bit held back now feels fluid and responsive, making the gameplay loop way more satisfying in portable mode. The ridiculous premise, yeah, it's wild, but that's part of the charm. You're building up to near invincibility, stacking abilities, and just embracing the chaos. And now that performance finally matches the ambition, it earns its spot on this list. If you're after pure, over-the-top fun on the go, this is one worth revisiting.
Let's be real for a second. Some games fade with time, but The Witcher 3, it refuses to disappear. And now, it's back on the radar for a very good reason. If you somehow missed it, this is a massive dark fantasy adventure packed with brutal combat, deep storytelling, and a world that still feels alive years later. You hunt monsters, make tough choices, and get pulled into quests that hit way harder than you'd expect. Yeah, it's not brand new anymore, and you will notice a bit of age in certain mechanics, but that actually works in its favor. It's like revisiting a classic that still holds up because of how strong the foundation is. Now, here's why it's on this list. Playing it on Nintendo Switch 2 with the Handheld Boost upgrade, you're basically getting docked level smoothness in handheld mode, which makes exploration, combat, and long sessions feel way better than before. That alone makes it worth jumping back in. A legendary RPG now running smoother on the go? Yeah, that's a solid reason to return. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 delivers a standalone journey, so no homework needed. You step into the shoes of Rex, a young salvager who bonds with Pyra, a legendary blade tied to world-shaking power. From there, it turns into a chase across a breathtaking world called Alrest, where entire civilizations live on the backs of gigantic, roaming titans. Exploration is where this game really shines. Every titan feels like its own ecosystem, packed with jaw-dropping views that constantly reward curiosity. The anime-inspired character designs add a ton of personality, and while some side missions feel a bit old school, they still give you more reasons to stay immersed in the world. Combat starts off simple, but evolves into something surprisingly deep. You're managing a team, swapping blades mid-fight, building combos, and unleashing huge finishes. It can feel overwhelming early on, but once it clicks, it becomes incredibly satisfying. Playing it on Nintendo Switch 2 with the handheld boost makes a huge difference. Those past slowdowns in wide areas are much smoother, making exploration and battles feel far more consistent. If you missed it before or dropped it early, this is absolutely the perfect time to return. Trials of Mana might not be the first title that comes to mind, but it absolutely earns its place on this list. 6 playable characters and 3 separate storylines that shift depending on who gets picked. That kind of replayability was ahead of its time and still holds up remarkably well today. The combat eases in gradually before opening up into a deep class progression system that keeps rewarding the further the game gets played. Playing it on Switch 2 is where things get particularly compelling. The handheld boost brings a noticeable visual upgrade that makes an already beautiful world genuinely shine on that screen. Couple that with a soundtrack that lets players toggle between the original and remastered tracks at will, and there is real care packed into this package. Whether this is a first playthrough or a return visit, Trials of Mana is the kind of RPG that is very easy to lose hours to.
That concludes our episode for the day. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to receive a notification about the latest game deals and updates. Thank you for tuning in. See you in the next video.